Welcome to the second official workshops for Unreal Engine, but this time we'll also use Premiere Pro. Um, so for this tutorial, I will give a bit of an insight and enough tools to produce videos and clips using Unreal Engine's sequencer tool, but also using Adobe Premiere Pro for additional control in editing and assembling the final output. Personally, I don't really recommend using sequencer to do the final sort of videos because I just don't think you have enough control for it. So just a little bit of a background sequencer. So it's really Unreal Engine's multi-track editor that's pretty much used for creating and previewing cinematic sequences in real time. You can use it to extract the clips and animations, but also to place animations in-game and trigger them, I suppose. And I think just for this tutorial, I suppose staying true to my philosophies in teaching, I think there's no better way to learn than to jump in the deep end and make something. So I also don't like to give tasks I know I can't do myself. So let's make a mini video together. Hopefully there'll be no glitches and we can just follow me step by step. All right, so in Unreal, we will use sequencer to essentially get all the clips we need to create for our video. So we'll try to get maybe 2 or 3 today, and then transition to Premiere Pro later. So as I mentioned last week, make sure all your files are organized. So maybe create a folder in your content browser called, let's say, sequencer. So we'll just go in there. Just a bit of a tip, have a bit of a plan on the types of clips or video clips that you might want to produce by making some sort of storyboard. I think don't do it on a whim. It's better to sort of jump in with a plan. So I think in that sort of output sheet, our design development thing that I gave earlier this week, have a look at how the other students did it for last semester in terms of their storyboard. Okay, so in order to make a sequence, so click on cinematics, which is up here. Click on this arrow and just click on add level sequence. Now over here, you also see a master sequence, which collates all your level sequences, but we'll use Premiere Pro for that instead. We just want to make separate clips here. That in that folder sequence, maybe I'll call this scene 1, maybe a landscape shot. Landscape hand, there you go. And so once you've got that, this would have popped up, which is a sequencer window. But you'll also notice on your world outline on the right here that it creates one for you as well. And also at the bottom on your content browser, obviously, it's there as well. So I tend to use sequencer. I've got 2 screens, so I tend to just make it really big because you get a lot in here. But if you're using just 1 screen, I've seen developers sort of pop it down here. I'll do that as well. Just copy them. So it's down here. Sequencer at the bottom. So just dock it down there. And again, in your world outliner, just to be really organized, sequences maybe, and I'll put that thing over there. Now, the first thing to do is, I'm just thinking of a bit of a plan. Maybe my video will be a bit of like a landscape panning thing that sort of goes maybe like this, maybe like that. It sort of goes through the landscape maybe. And so I will start, I suppose, my scene from here. My grass is quite low. My mouse is so fast. Okay. Maybe we'll start from here. Okay, so I'll do a bit of a scene where I'm going through the landscape. Just a nice simple one. Now over here, you will see this icon, like a camera cut icon. And so click on that. And what it does is that it locates a camera for you in the scene. So as you can see, here's one now. When you do that, you'll also see this thing up here that says Pilot Active Cine Camera Actor. Just click on this icon on the left just to stop that from happening for now. And what will happen is you will get another viewport here of what that camera actually sees at the moment. Down here, you will see, so I suppose, different transformation tools that you could do for the camera actor that you just placed. But if I move around, so if I get away from this, you'll see that my camera is hidden there. Yeah, it's pretty much there. So yeah, so it's there. So I'm in the game, there's my camera, and that's what the camera sees at the moment. So as you can see, it's really blurry. We'll fix that in a sec. Now for me, the default way that time is shown in Sequencer in Unreal Engine is via frames. So you would see like 30 frames per second or 25 frames per second, etc. Now, personally, I prefer to work with seconds because it's just how my brain registers time much easier and faster because it's seconds, it's not frames per second. So it's up to you how you want to work. But to change it to seconds, click on this guy here where it says 30 FPS or frames per second. And then click on show time as and just change it to seconds. Again, you don't have to. This is, whatever you prefer. But for me, I like seconds, so I'll click on seconds. So as you can see on top of my timeline here, that pretty much changes to seconds now. I just find that much, much easier. Now, just a little bit of intro to Sequencer are the concept of keyframes. So if you are familiar with video editing software, like Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro maybe, or After Effects, you would have probably come across the term keyframes, which are basically defined properties at desired points along a timeline. And it will make more sense as I go through this. But also the timeline is this. It's that area that allows you to create your sequence or your video. Down here at the, we'll go through a bit of details for Sequencer. So under here in the camera component is where you could change things like your aperture, lens length, etc. I'm no photographer or videographer, so I play with this quite ignorantly. So as you can see here in the Cinema Actor, to change the manual focus distance, you could, make that clear. I think that's how you do it. Oh, that looks good. Or maybe if I want more, wider lens, 17 maybe. As you can see, that changed. So yeah, that's where you could do all that sort of stuff. Now over here, the one that looks like a diamond, I find it useful if you click on it, it's pretty much how your keyframes could get locked in. So I find it useful to turn on key all and off sometimes, which means that every time something changes, like properties, it will be keyed in automatically for you. Some people find it annoying. I find it annoying sometimes, but half of the time I find it useful, so I will leave it on. Down here, there is, you can see this sort of transform area. And for this setting, it's about the transformation for the camera, such as moving it, rotating it, etc. So if you open that, you'll see location, rotation, scale. And so what we'll do, and what I'll show you, is I will make a landscape clip of just simply moving the camera. So by the way, this is your what you see here at the moment that's not grayed out. It's sort of like your preview time area. So if you press play, it will preview or play whatever is within that area, even though you've got more in the grayed area. So if you just want more of it, you can just drag it. Maybe I'll make one around there. So we'll make the camera move. So at the moment with this one, with the transformation, if you press on this one, on this little button, it will create a keyframe for where it is at the moment, one for location, one for rotation, and one for scale. And then I'll go to around maybe say 8 seconds. You can click on 8 seconds, or you could type 8 seconds here. You can go 8. You know, if you want like a specific one, like 7.25 seconds, you could type that in. With the camera, with the camera itself, you can now drag it to where you want it to go. Well, now, if you've got the location, the desired location, just click on the transform thing again. So that pretty much tells our camera that it starts at wherever it started from, and that it will go to a new location at 8 seconds. Now, when you do that, you will notice that it creates this line. It shows you a line for control. But before we do anything with that, just press play. Sorry, if you press that, you can see that it's zooming through the grass, going all the way through, and ending where it should end. And you can see that in my previous thing here, it kept playing all the way through, even though there was nothing there. So if I just reduce my preview sort of bounding there, so every time I press play, it will stop there. Okay. With this line of control, or control line of control sounds too formal. You could edit that. So let's just say I want to change the camera so it goes higher as it travels through this line, and you could change the dot point on the lines for that. So let's just say at about, let's say 1 second, or maybe 1.5. Let's do quick. At that point, I want the camera to sort of go up like it's like a roller coaster. If I move the camera up like that, now as you can see, the line didn't change with it yet. So basically what you need to do is you need to click on the transform thing again and add a keyframe. So as you can see, when you added a keyframe, that line of control goes up and it molds with that. So if I press play again on that cinematic, it should show my camera sort of zooming up, and then it should like go all the way down to where it should be at 8 seconds. Now, now you could imagine you could spend like 50 hours just on this one line of this one control line essentially, because you could imagine if, let's just say, you wanted to do a camera scene where you're really following the landscape, you could literally mold that line to follow the landscape. And obviously that would take forever. And now that I know this, I now sort of realize why animators take so long just for cameras that follow landscape paths. Now, what you could also do is, let's just say I am going to that 1.5. Oops. You could also change the way it rotates. So, let's just say we want it to look down a bit more, maybe. So you can see the landscape. So it's a bit more roller coaster-ish. Yeah, that's fine. That's sort of one way to do it, which is to, I suppose, have an overall view of what's happening with the camera. But another way of doing it is to actually look into the camera to record it. So it's a bit more of, I suppose, like a game. But depending how you want to work and what's easier for you, you can either do this or you could pilot the camera itself and edit the views from there. So over here where it says the Cine Camera Actor, if you click on this, it pretty much locks you in the viewport of that camera, as you can see here, right? And I can move around like it's a game. So like, for example, let's say at this point, maybe I decided that my camera should be like this, maybe. Let's say at around, I don't know, 4 seconds, the camera goes here. And if I create a keyframe, so on the transform, you should see that it makes one for us. If I just temporarily get away from this viewport, so you just unlock the lock of the pilot. So if you click on that, you should now see that our control line molded itself to where we were before. So I suppose with this way, you can be much more dynamic if you really want to. Now, if I press play, it should show that crazy sort of, veering to the right thing. See it there, and then back to where it should be from before. So yeah, so that's it really. There's two ways to change the control line for the camera. So one is doing it, so you could see sort of an overall sort of view of where the camera might go, and the other one is to drive it through as if you're a pilot. I suppose I'm just putting this, as a mental sort of thought. I mean, when animators do the video stuff, they treat it as if it's like real world. So they would put themselves in a position where, okay, if we did this in the real world, would we use like a crane? Would we use a camera rig? Would we use a track? Would we use a rail thing? And so I suppose with this method, it sort of gets you away from that. But animators sort of really consider I suppose that way of generating clips from animations as if it's real world. The next thing is to actually export. How do you export that particular clip that we just made? So go back to that sequence. Over here, you've got I don't know what you call this in film circles, but click on the render button. And you'll see a series of settings which we'll quickly go through. Particularly the ones I use. So you can export it as a series of images and place together as a clip in Premiere Pro. So it could be JPEGs, PNG, but for this one, we'll export it as a proper video. If you have audio, you would get the master audio submix or no audio. But I think with this one, just bear in mind that when you do this, when you get the audio out, that the audio and clip do not get integrated, meaning that they are not one file, but two separate files with the same time duration. I think that's just something to bear in mind. Just backtrack one on the output format. Just as a tip here, when Vei and I were doing that experimental trailer, we had to, at one point, particularly at the end where we did all the character stuff, as I mentioned before, it kept crashing on us. So one way as a backup and as a workaround is that we just exported them as separate images and placed them together in Premiere Pro. You can do that. What else is there? So the other one is the resolution. For our final video, for your trailers, we'll use a bit of a more high quality version. So we'll all use 1920 by 1080. That will be our final resolution for our trailers. Over here are, no idea what these are, but over here, if you can't seem to export it, you could try to reduce the quality by compressing it if you need to. And then pretty much on the output, just make a folder. Oh, sorry, just tell it where you want it to go. I'll put it there. I'll name this test clips. And then these two here. Oh, by the way, just bear in mind that sometimes the clips could be quite large. So again, if you have an external drive, maybe save it there. Over here under sequence and cinematic, I have no idea what they do, so I just leave them tick. I don't know enough about them. And the last one is animation, um, which pretty much allows you to render specific time frames if you want or need to. So you don't have to render the whole thing again. If you've changed something minor, you can just re-render a particular part. And I've noticed in Unreal Engine, the rendering doesn't take us long because I think it's pretty much rendered behind you. And once you're happy with it, just press Capture Movie. You can't see it, but on my second screen, the movie is now rendering, and you could also see it down there. Just give that a minute or two. Oh, I can drag it. There it is. It's rendering. So it's done now. Let's see if I can play it.